it doesn't even matter what you deliver, it's about how you deliver. Essentially, I was doing my job just like the others. However, I'd received feedback in my performance reviews highlighting like Emily's poor with eye contact, Emily's fidgety, appears distracted when listening, and that can be disrespectful. Emily misses social cues, she's a poor communicator. Classic, like, neurodivergence. Like, hearing those things was heartbreaking because it's like, I can't fix this in a 6-month performance review cycle. This is like me doing my best to fit your world as well, you know?
Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss unconventional productivity tactics designed for neurospicy people. I interview neurodivergent guests who've figured out secrets for getting a ton of amazing work done without burning out. I'm your host, Jeremy Nagel. I'm an ADHD software developer turned startup founder and PhD candidate. I built Focus Bear to help with my own productivity and burnout challenges. Welcome to episode number 143 of the Focus and Chill podcast. I'm thrilled to be joined by Emily Kendall today. Emily is a neurodivergent engineer and workplace advocate passionate about advancing neuroinclusion beyond awareness and into action. With over a decade in corporate environments, she has initiated neurodiversity networks within ASX 200 organizations, contributed to state and national advisory forums, and founded Perth-based advocacy initiatives. Emily blends lived experience with systems thinking to help leaders build workplaces where minds of all kinds can thrive. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Jeremy.
Yeah, good morning to you. So let's start with when you were first identified with neurodivergence. Was it early on or later on in life?
I suppose a bit of both, actually. So I'm a twin, and it was actually suggested to my parents when my twin sister and I were like 5 years old that it was thought we were neurodiverse. Because we were twins, it was quite a novelty. And so we did a lot of like, nothing like weird, but a lot of research trials. And so like academics or participate in supporting research. And so a lot of psychology or teachers and what have you. However, so I guess it was picked up back then. However, I suppose to an extent, it's a bit of a different time, you could say. And my parents thought, classic as well, you know, female presentation. It's not like we were destructive or disruptive and what have you. So it's like, oh, well, it's not impacting them or others. So we'll just let kids be kids. Who needs a label and get on with it as such. So they didn't pursue a diagnosis, and I respect their decision. But then I also kind of look back through my childhood and schooling experiences that were perhaps, could they have gone differently if I'd had a different experience? Who knows? However, it was fundamentally one particular year at university where I had 4 car accidents, all my fault, in 1 year running into the back of people because I wasn't paying attention. Then I realized it's not just that I'm getting in my own way, I suppose, but putting others at risk. And I thought, okay, I probably need to do something about this. So it was, back at uni, so maybe 10, 15 years ago, that I received my ADHD diagnosis. Probably more like 15, 20. Anyhow. And so there was a decent amount of time prior to entering the workforce, I guess in my early adulthood, that I navigated with that, working out what that meant for me. And then it was only in the past few years, I guess in my early 30s, that I received an autism diagnosis.
Well, I have been so close to doing what you did with car accidents. I need to make sure I take my meds when I drive, because normally I'm okay unmedicated with most things, that with coding and most aspects of my work, it's fine. But I really need to be on the ball with driving because I'm constantly looking out at signs or people.
Sure.
And so easy to get distracted. I could very much relate. And also to the label thing as well, because I think we probably grew up around the same time. And my parents, or my dad, has a similar attitude that he worries that a label would make someone, I guess, stoop to the diagnosis rather than actually the label being empowering and giving support strategies.
It's interesting because I had a similar personal then grapple with entering the workforce. Do I or don't I disclose? And I think there was this piece of me that didn't want to use it as an excuse or have a blame game and think, I earned my right to be here just like everyone else. I should be able to do the job like everyone else. But then having experiences where you, like trying your best, but still staying out like it's like, oh, maybe actually, it would have been empowering to be able to own that I'm different from the get-go and then that be accepted. And I think it's funny as well with the whole picking up, are you different or not? Because my whole family are fundamentally similarly wired, and also I'm a twin, and so I had someone, we're not identical, but we're very similar. Growing up, like in direct comparison, because she was sort of going through the same things and she was equally quirky, it sort of normalized it for me. And so that, and we just thought that was like how everyone experienced the world.
That actually sounds really positive to have
Oh my
someone
gosh,
and
so
the family
true.
to accept you.
If you think of how challenging generally, schooling or social experiences can be for the community. And, don't get me wrong, me and my twin sister had our fair share of challenges. We always had each other. And I'm so forever grateful to that. Like as much as the feeling of, like, I guess, confusion or lack of unsuring our identity, I was never fully alone. And I'm forever grateful for that.
That's amazing. And as you went through life, what were some of the challenges that you experienced?
I think when you talk again, like your experience, our experience, like growing up without the label, and again, a different time, I genuinely believe my parents thought they were doing the right thing, but my mum is actually fully deaf in one ear, and she has never claimed being disabled, and you would never know talking to her, even though she would look at you like this. Wasn't good ear forward. But I mean, as in she would never ask for consideration, etc. She just works like triply as hard to do all the same. And she is very much the mindset that if you're different or have a label, people will treat you differently. It's harder and it's easier to you get through life better when you fit in society, because society are cruel to those who are different. And frankly, that's not untrue. However, it also can be quite debilitating to constantly feel like you're bad and wrong for being different. So that was definitely a challenge I really struggled a lot as a child with emotional regulation and lots of meltdowns, like being able to cope with my feelings and like extreme, I don't know, breaking a nail feels like you're dying, sort of, not a nail because I'm not that sort of girl, but I mean, is in like the sentiment of, just things really strongly. I think as well, when it comes to challenges, all things considered, I'm particularly fortunate so far as being able to complete my university degree and still to this day hold down a full-time job. I realize a lot of people don't have the capacity to get the support to be able to have the tools to be in such a position. In saying that, I reckon it was in primary school that me and my twin sister went to therapy for the first time. I think in high school I started on and off like antidepressants and have been, I guess, in and out of psychology and on and off medication, mostly on for ever since. So I suppose, yes, it's been a journey, and it's not as if fully there, but I think, it's definitely been the irony as well, I suppose, is since being more open and empowering and of myself, my identity, I think has actually, like, being different has been that I felt more of a sense of acceptance and belonging than actually forcing myself to try and fit a box. And that was actually more debilitating and costly.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. That it has a high cost trying to fit in. Yeah, and how about at work? What was it like? It's wonderful that you've been able to hold down work over that time. But were there challenges in the workplace that you experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I sort of said, I finished my uni degree, engineering, and then applied for a bunch of jobs, like lots of conventional graduate programs and what have you. And I was very much scared if I was to disclose that it means that I would be automatically rejected. And I didn't want to then, instead of having 100 companies to choose from, like only 5. So I thought I'd say nothing and try and just meet the criteria as everyone else. And fortunately, I guess I must have developed some great masking skills over the years, because I managed to navigate through a conventional graduate application hiring process such that I entered a big, resources company as an engineer in their graduate program. And I thought to myself that I'd earned that just the same as everyone else. So I should be able to fit into the workplace like everyone and handle feedback, what have you. However, what I found in entering the workplace is actually it doesn't even, sadly, it seems that, and perhaps this is just my experience in like super corporate world, but like it doesn't even matter what you deliver, it's about how you deliver. And if you don't, it very much was of the experience that there are preferences, very strong preferences for a type and a norm and a mold, and anything outside of that is uncomfortable. So essentially I was doing my job just like the others. However, I'd received feedback in my performance reviews highlighting like neurodiverse characteristics and traits. And so, for example, Emily's poor with eye contact, Emily's fidgety, appears distracted when listening, and that can be disrespectful. Emily misses social cues, she's a poor communicator. Classic, like,
Wow.
neurodivergence. But like hearing those things was heartbreaking, because it's like, I can't fix this in a 6-month performance review cycle. This is like me doing my best to fit your world as well, like I can't change those things. But then it made me feel if I wasn't able to be that, then I wasn't okay to be, I wasn't entitled to be there. And the worst part as well is hearing those things then for that next 6 months. And honestly, it was actually quite debilitating for several years. If you think of having like 100% mental capacity, I would spend 80% of my energy focusing on eye contact, sitting on my hands so I didn't fidget, try to like focus on my like fitting the mold rather than actually doing the work. So then I didn't have energy left over to actually do my work. And so my work was shit. And so then I get even worse performance outcomes. And essentially I was performance managed, and it just like compounded, and it made me feel bad and wrong, and like I wasn't entitled to be there, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve my role, and that everyone else was better than me. And it was heartbreaking and soul destroying, and it absolutely broke me for like a good 5 years. Honestly, I was really lost and alone and absolutely suffering in silence, didn't know anyone else, and thought I was the only one in this position, until I met 2 people who were honestly game changers for me. One was this lady in my team, and she was a mum of 2 neurodiverse kids, one with autism, one with ADHD. And she said to me, like, "Emily, you're such a role model. Like, I really hope one day my children turn out something like you." And the other was like a bigwig VP in the business, and she was dyslexic. And she said to me, "Emily, you need to embrace your uniqueness and own your strengths, and that's actually such an asset to the business." And I suppose them like truly seeing me and accepting me and making me think, no, you as you are, Emily, is enough and is valued, was like this sort of metaphorical like hands on my back, like lifting me up. And they genuinely like got me out of my hole, and was like absolutely pivotal game changer in not feeling alone, feeling accepted. And they helped me sort of come out, if you will, and be able to have constructive conversations with my leaders about, these are the roles that play to my strengths. This is what you need to do to support me, and this is what you can do to get the best out of me. And it was absolutely like profoundly game changing so far as like my sense of self, and also my like delivery at work. So I suppose my experience has been then that I suppose disclosing and being open in the workplace actually has had better outcome than trying to fit the mold. I say that it's still like a challenge, because I think there's a balance of, they still want a certain level of fitting the mold. Like, you can't be too different, but I find at least I can feel a little bit more like I can be me and do my job, and that's okay. But yeah, I suppose that took me a few more years in that same company to then feel like I was ready to take the next step, namely because, to be honest, and sorry, this is kind of unrelated, but like that whole first impression unconscious bias. So people who were involved in like deciding on promotions and role selection, etc., they couldn't unsee me as this tiny version of myself that was, unable to perform. Whereas I was absolutely thriving now and kicking goals, and I felt I was ready for more. But they couldn't unsee that person. I was like, I don't want to wait another 3-5 years for you to see what I know I'm capable of today. And so I decided at that point to change organizations, and I went to a new job as an engineer in ASX 200, another resource company. But from day one, I was like entered as the Emily you know today. And, there I was an exceptional performer and there was no troubles with my, I guess, the way I presented myself as well as my delivery and output. It's just so ironic that actually there's the individual and my capability hasn't changed, but the individual's perception of me has, and how much that conflates into one's ability and performance and like potential, which
Mm.
honestly frustrates me, but it's
Mm.
the world we still live in. Yeah. So that's where I am today.
I'm really glad to hear that you had people to support you and that you were able to find an environment where you could thrive.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Huge change. And in terms of feeling alone, I probably a lot of neurodivergent people would feel like that as well, because I definitely struggled in my first couple of jobs. I got fired from a couple of jobs due to maybe not being as good at masking as I should have been. And it was similar, that it really did seriously affect my self-esteem and then create that self-fulfilling negative prophecy, then of
Yes.
not being able to live up to it. But having people who believe in you makes such a big difference.
Oh my gosh, 100%, Jeremy. And the thing as well for me is going through that. And now I suppose in the organizations which I work, I am like the face of neurodivergence, if you will, because there's still in that people, I'm like own it loud and proudly in the workplace and tell everyone what I think, like classic hierarchy blindness, but also just like call out bias, etc. And yeah, really advocate for neuroinclusion. And now in my like, I guess, yeah, a few places later, I've met so many individuals in my time of all different roles, of all ages, all experiences. And my experience is not isolated. And I wasn't the only one. Like so many individuals are still on that journey, and it's not their fault. It's the system and the environment's fault. But for me, it shows like the power of community and why it's so important that we create spaces where, at least in the interim, until the world is ready to have the right environment for everyone to, I guess, be themselves, at least we can support one another. And I'm just so passionate about sharing my story and also being, I guess, the vocal person for those who are still suffering in silence until they get that support from their community to give them that empowerment to really step into themselves as well. And it's so frustrating personally as well, because it's just so dumb. Like when someone feels better about themselves and is able to just remove all of that energy that goes into trying to fit the mold, what they can deliver is exceptional and often much better than the neurotypical. However, the amount of person energy we take on trying to balance fitting the preferences of the norms means that we're not able to demonstrate that. And we also don't necessarily feel safe to offer that outside the box sort of way of being. And so you're not getting the best out of that individual, which is bad for a business outcome, but also then that person feels poorly about themselves. So it's like such a win-win to get to this inclusive space, yet we're still somehow very much on that journey.
Yeah, 100%. No, I was really intrigued by the word you used before, hierarchy blindness. I hadn't heard that before, but I know exactly what you mean, and I think I'm similar. And that, I think, is a real strength for an organization where you have people who can call out, hey, CEO, I think your strategy doesn't make sense. But it's very threatening, I guess, for senior leadership. And
Yeah,
maybe that's
100%. I've had that experience. So yes, speaking of, I'm working in like, big thousands plus company. And in my last two jobs, I've definitely emailed the CEO and told them what I think. And I've even caught up with them one-on-one and had a meeting to share my thoughts. And I was in my current role as well. I was talking to a colleague and he's like, I'm sorry, you're doing what? And I was like, you don't just Teams message the C-suite, but you ask them things, like they're humans too. Turns out that's not not the average person does. Although what you say as far as like it's such an asset for an organization, I personally couldn't agree more. However, I still think we're not there yet, unfortunately. At least that's been my experience. E.g., I'm like in this pickle of a world where I feel that there's still a preference for like yes men, because people don't have backbones and so they like to be like comforted, such that you're only going to progress if you fit that mold. And that personally is draining and debilitating and takes so much energy, and also doesn't allow me personally. It's like bad for my mental well-being. Conversely, I'm now the person who says what I think, speaks up, challenges the status quo. So much so as my recent VP, he's like, I saw him, he's like, "Thank you, Emily, for your continued feedback." I was like, "Yep." But whereas everyone else, he's just like, "Oh, we don't talk to him." I'm like, he's a human. But I find that, for example, what I'm currently grappling with is the sort of perception that if you're always that person that's challenging the norms and speaking up, it's sort of like the cumulative effect can be you're a non-cultural fit. And then that has like inadvertent backlash as far as like your commitment and loyalty and fit to the company. And that also can inadvertently hold you back. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But at least this way I'm true to myself. However, I have to concede that that means I'm likely not going to be like that next big thing because, it's not the way we currently do things.
Or it might be that there'll be organizations where you agree more with their decisions, and then they value your critique, but also probably equally value when you say, "Hey, you're doing it right now," because they know that you're not just brown nosing, that it is actually genuine as well.
Yeah. Although I guess as well, I look at like how many neurodivergents end up like just working for themselves or creating their own companies, right?
Yeah, guilty as charged. But
Yeah.
I have had a few jobs where I have felt really aligned with senior leadership, and I have loved the strategy. There have been things that I've pointed out, but I've overall felt very aligned. It hasn't been common. I think I've had about maybe 9, 10 jobs, and I'd say 2 of the roles I did feel in that situation. And it's amazing to find an organization like that where I do respect and value the senior leadership's direction, but it is rare. Most organizations, the senior leadership feels vague, and lack of backbone is a good way to put it. Let's move on now, because we've kind of been talking about work. Could you talk more about the type of work that you do?
Sure. So studied engineering, did conventional technical engineering stuff for the earlier part of my career, spent some time on site. I've always worked at operators. So they're the people who run the facilities as opposed to consultants, who are often those who do the more difficult technical work for companies like operators. We more are like generalists. So often the companies in which I've worked, it's not so much about being the individual that does the detailed calculations, all of the modeling, and identifies the problem, so much as when someone then says, "Hey, we've got this problem," you have to understand, okay, so what? What do we do with this problem? So it's like the broader implications. And this is just, interestingly, I guess, naturally, I've sort of fallen into the right place. It's taken a while to work out what that looks like and is for me. And funnily enough, it is very much aligned to, my natural strengths, as opposed to areas where I fundamentally just, I'm not interested. And so doesn't go so well. But yeah, my current role, I've moved away from more like core discipline specific engineering. I actually did a diploma of project management, I don't know, 5 years ago or something, and now do more studies. So I, unlike most, engineers and like conventional ADHD, I don't like data and numbers and modeling and spreadsheets and Excel. I don't want to sit behind a desk all day and do numbers. I like engineering because I like problem solving. I like being creative. I like bringing all these random bits of a puzzle together that would otherwise not be seen. And that's like the space in which I currently work. And it took quite a while actually for me to feel comfortable that I can still call myself an engineer when I wasn't necessarily good or enjoy that sort of conventional technical calculations and modeling type engineering. And actually to realize that, this too is engineering. It's just like approaching, it's, I guess, using those similar skills, but on a different way. So I currently work in a team called like concept studies. In other areas, it's being called development engineering, or I don't know. Yeah, it's essentially early phase opportunity assessment. So if there's a problem or an opportunity, it's like, okay, what is the problem? Like, why do we want to bother solving this? Is it worth solving it? And so I'm very much the first sort of like sniff test. Is this something that a business should then pursue further as far as putting more time, money, effort, resources into like a formal project? So I think, yeah, it's very much about like business case assessment. I really like that it's very much blue sky thinking, and it's about being creative. So there's not like, you don't look at some challenge or a problem or opportunity like with a fit forced solution in mind. It's about like being unconstrained and looking at all the different alternatives and assessing against like an agreed set of like drivers as to determine whether or not it has sufficient value. And sometimes you can be surprised and as far as like which one you thought was going to be actually valuable is not. Interestingly, I've done this similar style of work as far as working at if that something's worth pursuing and like, is there business value for this opportunity in several different companies and in several different types of problems I've been looking at. But the approach and methodology and framework and way of like assessing value has been quite similar. So it's not only about, I guess, doing the technical economics. So I do end up doing like unfortunately, the spreadsheets of like
NPV calculations.
yes, exactly, that sort of stuff. But it's also then looking at, I guess, qualitatively, how does that fit into the broader business strategy, and like, why do something now versus something else? How does this work so far as like a timeline and fit into the broader, portfolio of options? So yeah, I used to do that more for conventional resource opportunities. Now I do that as far as like, what does a decarbonization like strategy look like, and what different options should we be exploring, and in what order does that make most sense and most value to be able to reduce emissions?
Amazing. Very important work. My wife actually has a similar role in the water industry. She's a carbon accountant and is weighing up, should we do solar or should we plant trees, and figuring out what's going to have the best outcomes environmentally, but also economically. And it sounds really fun being able to do lots of different projects and not necessarily be locked into one for years and years.
Yes, it's funny. I've been in like a frontline surveillance role, which is like reactive firefighting, and most like ADHD people love that because it's like short, reactive, and you don't have to think about things in the long term and be planned. But I absolutely hated that. And I actually really like this longer term project. So things I work on are probably like 6 to 9 months, but I've got like a few going at once. So I like that nothing is urgent, and also that I'm generally making recommendations for the future. So even if I fuck it up, like someone will reassess it later anyways. I like a responsibility, but I also like being able to forge my own path as far as, there's a bit more freedom in this space of working. And I like that it's quite unconstrained and ambiguous, that every problem's different. But I like having multiple going at once because I can get bored or get stuck on one. And I agree, like, I don't think if I was to have something that's super duper long term, like without mini goals and milestones in between, I would be able to really keep interested. Yeah, but each their own.
And you also have another role as well?
Oh yeah, I am also do job coaching with Auticon. So Auticon's a technology consultancy which only hires neurodiverse individuals, and they have an incredibly considered business model which is very structured so far as ensuring that the neurodivergent individual is going to succeed. So they get placed into a conventional client like a Woolworth or a bank of some form, or some big companies in their like technology space. But it's also about then having a job coach, which is like honestly, I look at my role as like a safe space buddy to help navigate and troubleshoot like pickles in the workplace that we all know we come across. But so part of, let's say, Coles or Microsoft paying for an Auticon person is paying for the whole team getting neurodivergent awareness training, the individual having a technical coach, the individual having a sort of a neuroinclusion support specialist, and all these sorts of additional things to make sure then that person is going to thrive, that person will feel supported, and that the outcomes of the client will be successful. And then outside of that as well, I've also I've been doing it like on and off for like 5 years, I started it doing a lot of advocacy outside of work because I'm really passionate. And also, as we've talked about, like my experience is you're not unique and not everyone works in big companies where there's thousands of people. And I just really hate the idea of people working in a small place and literally feeling totally alone and not having another buddy where they can be themselves and like let off their mask. And I'm really passionate about creating that space for the community to come together and build those support networks, because how important women were for me in finding myself and getting to where I am today. So I have a consultancy where I go around to businesses and support them in exploring like what neuroinclusion could look like in their workplace based on my experiences, offering awareness training and the like. And then I reinvest that money into putting on free community events in Perth, because I'm insist on them being free because I recognize how the balance of like un and underemployment in our community, and I don't want there to be any barriers. But I really am so passionate about creating the space for people to come together and build those connections. And the idea for me personally is we can, find our people and we can go leaving feeling a little bit stronger and standing a little bit taller in ourselves. And then you can enter the workplace where I've wanted to deliver their awareness training. So then there's a little bit less bias and blind spots, and we can hopefully therefore meet in the middle is my utopia one day.
I love that. So your main job must be quite flexible, that you can do the other consulting and job coaching. Do you do it outside 9 to 5, or how does it all fit in?
With hyperactivity, that's how it all fits in. I suppose it's taken a while, I think, but as far as like kind of working out how to fit everything in. But for me, I have finally got enough like self-confidence to, I suppose, ask for forgiveness, not approval. And so I genuinely believe in flexible work so far as like, does the work get done? Yes. Well, then does it matter when I do it or where I do it? So yes, I do these sorts of things between the hours of 9 till 5, but I do my day job around that as well, such that I've never not made sure my stuff's being delivered on time. I just make it work around, I guess, my other commitments as well. So yeah, I guess you could say my job's flexible.
Yeah, I've always done the same sort of thing and felt a bit guilty about moonlighting, but now I recognize results only is what matters. That if it gets done, then that's the key thing. And now that I manage other people, that's the expectation I set as well, that if they need to do other things during 9 to 5, that's completely fine. And speaking about outside 9 to 5, what do you enjoy doing outside those 3 roles?
I have a lot of energy that I need to expend so I can sleep. So I exercise a lot every morning, and then I cycle to and from work. But also my partner and I have got quite into saunas recently. I don't know what it's like over on the East Coast, but there are like bathhouses and saunas popping up everywhere in Perth. It's like the thing, which I kind of love for that next generation, how they're all about wellness rather than drinking and stuff. I think it's really cool. It's funny, like when my twin sister actually lives in Melbourne, and I remember this one Saturday night, me and my partner went to like a sauna at like 9 p.m. on Saturday, and then we were going to bed and we were just like living our best life. Meanwhile, she was about to go out clubbing and not get home till stupid o'clock. It's just like we're just so funny how our ideas of Saturdays are so, and our best life is different. But yeah, we love saunas. For me, it's about the mindset of I can do hard things, in that it's funny, like that love-hate relationships, like this is so unpleasant. I'm really not enjoying being in here, but being able to breathe through that and then take that sort of mindset to the outside world. So then when I'm in a time or a moment where I get a little bit flustered or overwhelmed, I can remember, yes, but remember you sat in a hot room and breathed through that and you survived and you got through, and actually it's okay. And for me, that's a pretty powerful regulator for me. For my partner, what he finds as well, similarly, he finds it so unpleasant in the best way that all he can do is think about his breath, that then it helps him clear his mind. So we both get that type of thing out of it. But funnily enough as well, as I've definitely been brought up of like a very deliberately delivering and productivity efficiency sort of mindset. You've got to keep doing things. But I've tried to become slowly but surely kinder to myself and picking up on when I need rest to be able to then do my delivery the best I can, such that I really enjoy doing like puzzles and Sudokus and these sorts of like slower sort of craft things as well. I'm enjoying, those sort of more mindful experiences, and I'm trying to get better at seeing that rest is sort of just as important and is a key enabler of success and productivity, because it means that you've got to have the right headspace to be able to be focused for that period.
Yeah, 100%. And that leads on really well to the next topic, which is about optimizing productivity. And I completely agree that rest is a crucial part of it, energy management being more important than time management. What else helps you to optimize your productivity when you're working?
When at work, specifically, I did this email training course like 10 years ago where it taught you how to have 0 emails in your inbox. And I don't know what sort of person you are, Jeremy. There's either like a person who's got like a gazillion unread, and I feel like they're the same sort of person that has 1,000 tabs in one, or you're the person who is like me and it's like everything gets filed, and I have like 5 tabs max at any one time. So in my personal emails and also my work emails, like it's clean and 0 unread at the end of any day, because everything gets filed, or if I don't respond to it immediately, I make it like a not clear, like a non-busy kind of free looking task in my calendar. So each day, if you were to look at my calendar, it's just like a bunch of like these things I need to remember to do. And once I've done them, I kind of move them to before time. And if I don't finish it that day, it moves to the next day. So that's how I don't forget to do things, and how I keep on top of things. I definitely think that I can afford to do that for now because of the type of role I'm in, such that I'm not, I still have enough time between like not being fully in meetings all day to have like desk time, and also that my inbox isn't like stupid. I don't get like a gazillion things. So I think if it was, I'd have to probably reassess if I was in a different circumstance. But for now, that's how it works for me. But I am also trying to now find this balance of not everything has to be done immediately, and it's okay to like sit and pause and think and have slow response type like as well. And so I'm trying to find that balance between, it's like, and I think that's like such a classic neurodivergence thing as well. Like I think your strengths and challenges like kind of flip of the same coin, e.g. I am super productive and efficient and I get shit done and I'm organized and I don't forget things and I'm on time, these sorts of things. However, the converse of that is like that potentially sometimes I'm too fast and impulsive and instinctive, as opposed to like sitting and thinking and like having a more considered response. And it's like, but well, you can't. And also it means as well, like I have sometimes poor attention to detail and I miss things because I've done it too fast. It's like, well, you can't have both things, you know? It's like, so I think for any sort of opportunity, it's like, well, how do we try to focus on, rather than like, oh, this is all the challenges and, shortcomings of this trait, how do we focus on what the goods are and how do we create a space to harness that? I had a dyslexic friend who has a really great analogy in this way, so far as their sheer disdain for reading and writing, and essentially, don't put them in a role which involves writing big long reports or reading, I don't know, contracts and big long documents, but also that, for example, when it comes to writing emails, if you want someone to be able to be really good at seeing the wood from the trees or be really direct and get to the point in 5 seconds, they're your person, they're your go-to. Okay, well, let's put them in a role like that. Let's not put them in this sort of role. It's like, you can't have both things, but let's, instead of saying, oh, that person is bad at reading, let's say that person is great at being succinct and getting to the point. And that's sort of the way I would like to be able to frame like those different like traits.
Absolutely. There's always going to be a role where we're uniquely suited. And some of the weaknesses, like I'm similar to you, that well, actually, we might be different because my nature is to have 1,000 tabs and to have tons of emails in my inbox, but I force myself to not do that. And I feel better when currently I only have 2 tabs open, and I feel good about that. I don't feel overwhelmed. But it's very easy for me to slip into that other way of operating. But is it ever like that for you with the, I guess, the conflict between the Audi and the HD part of ADHD?
100%. I totally relate to that as well. This grapple between like doing what's comfortable and like your like natural sort of way versus, okay, but I know this is better for me sort of thing. But I think we have that with everything in life when you feel so much like this hustle culture and time pressure to find the 5 minutes to have that do your mindfulness or to be slow or how do you not choose the doom scrolling and choose something that's more like actually truly like connecting and rewarding. But it's so easy to choose the sort of easily accessible part. And I think that's like a constant grapple for everyone, not just neurodivergents, but like everyone. I really do think that. Funnily enough, I've just bought this thing. It's called a brick, and it's like I have on it's like a magnet literally on my fridge, and you have to like physically touch it. And it's another app which I'm sick of having so many apps on my phone, but it's a good app in that it then disables apps. So for example, I have bricked off a lot of doom scrolly social media things. And then if I want to go and enable them, I have to touch the brick. So it's like a physical, habitual sort of moment you have to have. But also then I can have, I can check it for 5 minutes in the evening and maybe before work or what have you. But then like during the work day, like I can't get to my fridge at home. And so it's blocked out. And so I found as well that the less I have them accessible, the less I'm using them, the less addictive or less likely I am to just by default go to that, or I'll just fill my time with that for 5 minutes. So that has been quite good at then making me less constantly feel that urge for that like quick dopamine fix sort of like as well.
Yeah, 100%. And instead use that 5 minutes to have a proper mindfulness break, which we're going to do right now. We'll be back with you listeners shortly. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. Staying on top of tasks is easier than ever with Focus Bear's new To-Dos feature. Record a voice note describing what you need to do, and Focus Bear's AI will turn it into a structured set of subtasks and automatically prioritize it for you. You can also take a photo of the paper to-do list, and the AI will work its magic. I'd love for you to try it. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Okay, we're back from our mindfulness break, feeling very zen. And I'm keen to hear about how you start your day, which is apt because you are starting your day right now. But you probably began a fair bit earlier than when we started the podcast. What time did you wake up this morning?
What gives you that impression? Yes, I'm such a morning person. Don't expect anything from me I'm not a night out like beyond 10 p.m. Like you will not get much from me. In saying that, I wake up to an alarm. I don't know how there are those people who wake up naturally every day without an alarm. Like, who are you? That is crazy. But I am proud to say I'm not someone who sits there and snoozes. It's funny, my twin sister, she's the same. She's really good about it. She was saying how she heard of this app where every time you press snooze, it gives money to a charity, granted like up until a point, but like kind of forces you to stop when there's like, no, you're wasting money when it's like that. Anyhow, it's funny. So yes, get up every morning, and pretty much during the working week, at least I get up and I go straight to the gym every morning for like an hour or so. And then I come home and I cycle to work. So I really like going to exercising in the morning just because then it's done, I guess, finding 30 each day. And when it comes to, if I was to try and do it after work or in the evening, you just never really know what's going to unfold as the day progresses. And I really and I like to have, then it's like, and if I don't do that, then I get really shitty. Then I'm like, oh, work got the better of me today. Or like, I don't want my life to be owned by that and that to be like all there is. So it's really important for me to feel like I've done something for me. So I exercise every morning, and I as well for that. For me, it's like just expending energy, really.
Yeah, I find the same, that it's much better to do it in the morning. And not only does it avoid work getting the better of me, but it also makes me better at work if I do exercise
Yeah.
first thing.
So true. And I suppose because I've done it for so long, I don't really notice whether or not I would be better or worse. But I will say this, the days that I don't do it, and then also the days that I don't cycle to work, if I have something after work and I need to like drive, and driving to work and being in traffic and it's just like, it puts me in such a bad mood. I mean, obviously we talked earlier about how I'm a terrible, that doesn't help.
It's
But
dangerous.
it is, yeah, you don't want me on the roads. But it's more like, I just could not imagine, and this is Perth, so we didn't even have traffic compared to like over east, but it just puts me in such a bad mood being in traffic and like it just feels like such a waste of time. But funnily enough, I was talking yesterday to my therapist and we had a really rainy day yesterday in Perth and I had the 8 a.m. session because I work flexibly. And so we were in person and she was, she lives like 30 minutes away, but because it was such a rainy day, it ended up taking her like over an hour. And so she was late to our appointment and she felt terrible, but I actually don't really care. But it's funny, I was saying like, oh my God, that would stress me out. I'd be in such a like a fraz and a tiz by the time I got to work being rain late and all this. And she said, actually, she put on like a mindfulness app in her car and she was just like, and she was saying how it is what it is. It doesn't change anything being stressed. It's out of my control. All I can do right now is drive the best I can and just be in this moment because whether or not I get like in a tiz or not doesn't change the fact that I'm going to be late. And like, what does it actually matter if I'm late or not? So I might as well just be present right now. And I was like, wow, you're such a big person. Like, what a human.
Yeah, I aspire to be like that as well. I can
100%.
definitely spiral if I'm running late. That sounds like a fantastic way to start the day. And then the other side of it is in order to begin that early, your sleep must have to be quite early as well. How do you wind down at
Yeah.
night?
I must admit, I've never been a good sleeper. Me, my twin sister, my mum, all really struggle to switch off at night and fall asleep. It's so annoying. Like our little sister and my dad, their head hits a pillow and they're dead, and then they're out until the morning. Like they don't even wake up. I cannot stand those people. I couldn't remember a night where I don't have a broken sleep. I could always wake up at least once or twice in the night for no good reason. And it always takes a while to fall asleep, which is why I exercise because I want to feel tired. But I'm also, yes, you're right. I do go to bed early, relatively speaking. And I used to actually have some really bad sleep anxiety a few years ago. So paranoid about making sure I got enough sleep. And I actually think it was to do with having like a Fitbit or a Garmin and it would like track your sleep. And rather than that being like something that was encouraging or just like a curiosity, I became like obsessed. And then I would like be like, oh, I had a bad sleep. Therefore, it's going to be a bad day. And it would like really get into my psyche. And then I became like obsessed with having this like extreme sleep routine that was super rigid, like must be in bed by 10 o'clock. And I would force myself to like have a herbal tea and listen to a body scan and read a book. And I was so rigid. And it was actually so debilitating that then I would be like anxious in my head that I wasn't already asleep, that then it would like make me more wired and awake. And it was just like an absolute, not a good space. So much so that got to the point that I would like be having panic attacks and because I hadn't slept, in the early hours of the morning, and I would like chug half a bottle of wine to pass out to fall asleep because I was so anxious about the fact I wasn't asleep. And I was like, that is not great. And I was doing that. It was horrible, truly. And I've worked really, really hard with my therapist on like that sort of like distress exposure tolerance. Like you can do hard things, let's like small little baby things, realizing actually that, going to bed after 10 o'clock, or even, having one night of no sleep, like you'll survive, you'll be okay. And sort of trying to reduce some of the rigidity. It's kind of funny, but because I think there's like, again, that whole flip of the same coin. Like I am quite routine and rigid and structured, and it means that I'm organized and productive and get shit done because I'm like, rigid. But then there's the other side where I can be, unlike my therapist, like super able to, I can't handle change and I like get into huge fries and it like really throws me. And I want to be like less rigid and able to go with the flow and happy go lucky and spontaneous. But then I'm worried if I'm too much like that, maybe I'll like not get things done. Anyhow, I'm working on it. But yeah, I've also, like, when I came out of that difficult kind of like space of my sleep, I've come a really long way as far as trying to not be so rigid. But I still like take a melatonin every night. I don't know if it even makes a difference or if it's like a placebo mental thing, but given it's natural, I'm like, well, there are worse things. So, but I do try really hard to read a book for like before I go to bed, and also like, no screen time for that last hour, etc., to like slowly calm my brain down. I think the other thing I want to get better at is going to bed when I'm tired rather than when I feel like the time says I should go to bed. Yeah. So I think we could say that, yeah, sleep is still something I'm working on, but fortunately for me, I have a lot of energy. So even if I don't sleep, I can still manage to get through the next day reasonably.
A great asset. And I like that idea of having all the things that you mentioned, I think are empirically helpful. That
Yeah, true.
going to bed at a regular time and avoiding screen time and avoiding caffeine and doing some mindfulness activities before bed, they all seem helpful. But I think I'm similar to you, that having some willingness to not get distressed if it doesn't exactly go to plan. I've really had to embrace that being a father now. And I normally am like your dad and your little sister, that I'll sleep through the whole night without issues. But now I've got a little creature that wakes me up at least a few times during the night, and trying to not worry that the next day is going to be ruined if I wake up at 3 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. It's been very difficult, but also helpful mindset wise.
It's funny you say that as far as like the waking up of the noise. The other thing I forgot to mention about my sleep is I didn't even realize like how actually sensorily sensitive I was, but I actually sleep every night. I wear earplugs, even though I'm the snorer. So, but I also wear I love really tight eye masks, and I love my weighted blanket. Like I just love feeling that like pressure on me. And it's funny, my twin sister, bad sleeper, she is the opposite, where she wants like really loosey goosey eye masks, and I'm like, well, what's the point? So I get all the new ones, and then once they're like too stretched for me, I give them to her because she likes them at that level. Yeah, I think that's the other thing, like working out those sorts of things. And then obviously one of the other most important things is like the right temperature. Oh my gosh, it's funny, like when it's hot in summer and I'm too hot, I get like nightmares. Whereas like in winter, I nearly always sleep better. Just that feeling, because then you can have the weighted blanket, just like that pressure. Whereas like you don't want that in summer and stuff. So
maybe you should move to a European country where it's cold.
yeah, you say that, but
or Melbourne.
yes, I have really poor circulation, and so yeah, I also really struggled with the cold. That was one thing that was like interesting early on in my journey with trying to find the right stimulants and stuff, is like the balance of the side effects. And I remember the rheumatologist who helps with my circulation stuff, she's like, it's the Dexies, and the psychiatrist is like, it's not the Dexies. And there was this big like thing about it. And then I was getting like different made acting before, a long acting, like compounded privately. It's fucking expensive before like Vivance became a thing. But yeah, it's interesting trying to find the right thing and manage then the other sort of like physical implications. And it's like the trade-off as well, where like my rheumatologist like, we'll just stop them. The psychiatrist like, don't just stop them. And so yeah, that's been a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Hard to balance all of the variables. Well, it's been really wonderful talking with you. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Me
If people
too.
would like to connect with you to get your inclusion consulting or just to have a chat, where's the best place for them to contact you?
Yes, thank you, Jeremy. Probably the best place is if you find my name on LinkedIn, so Emily Kendall, and then we can connect through that way. Yeah, that'd be great. I look forward to, chatting with anyone, whether it's about like the inclusion consulting, if you think it's something I can help your business, like where you work with. I've been quite involved in on like a corporate level, working out what policy systems, procedures inadvertently do or don't discriminate against neurodivergents, or how do you make them more universally accessible and inclusive? So that's something I'm really passionate about. But even if it's just like about then wanting to know more of how to connect with the community or sharing stories and feeling less alone, like that is something that is so close to my heart. And I'm so grateful to meet others, because it just makes you feel a little bit more seen and less alone, which can be hard in a world where we're still trying to like be accepted, right?
Absolutely. And do you have any final words or asks for the audience?
Oof. When it comes to should you have any neurotypical, I guess, listeners, I really love in Ted Lasso the whole be curious, not judgmental thing. So far as, and I think actually, it's for everyone really. When someone does something different to yourself, instead of thinking, oh, that's bad and wrong because it's not like me, be curious. Like, does it actually matter? Does it change the outcome? And why do I care? Should I not have a little bit of trust and curiosity, acceptance and respect? Let a person go about things their own way, and chances are you'll get a great outcome if you let people be. I think we're all different, like neurodiverse or otherwise, and difference isn't a bad thing. It's about respecting that difference so that people feel safe and accepted to be who they are. Difference isn't all, because fundamentally we're all humans. We all deserve to feel valued and accepted. And I think that when you create a space where everyone feels that way, like fundamentally people thrive, and it's such a win-win.
Absolutely. Amen to that. We'll wrap the show there. Thanks so much, Emily.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.